Good evening. What's the time? We'll start in a couple of minutes. Yeah. I hope you can hear me. If anybody is there that can maybe just raise their hand or react so that I can just know if the sound is working. Thank you. Thank you, Carlo. Thank you so much. So, okay, let's start. The rest can join as soon as they join. And my name is Rowan, and thank you for being here for our masterclass on the two-pot retirement system. I am a financial advisor. So, what I will discuss today won't actually be financial advice because financial advice just requires a one on one consultation because I need to take into account your personal situation, but I will give you some baseline principles and how the two pot works and all the facts in that regard. If you do have questions, I'll open the chat box and see if I can open the mics for questions at the end, and I'll stay until I've answered all questions anybody may have. So, just a disclaimer, it's not financial advice this session, it's more info session because I can only give advice if I have your personal situation and I take into account your current goals. So, just to give an outline of tonight's session, I'm first going to discuss what the main problem is and what is keeping us poor. I'm not sure if there's anybody that belongs to the GPF. The GPF's pension works a bit differently, and I'll touch on it. But if you want me to go into depth, I will do so. And I will discuss the two pot retirement system. I will provide a solution, and then I will take questions and I'll answer some of your questions. So, where my journey began as a financial advisor. So in October 2007, I had an accident where I almost lost my fingers in a work related incident. And I realized at the time that I was not going to work like this for the rest of my life in such a dangerous environment. And I started looking for outs or answers to my situation. So I read a little book by Robert Kiyosaki, and that's when I started to look for answers and mentors because I realized if I made debt and I was working because I needed a car. If I purchased me a car but I made debt, then I would have been enslaved to my employer for that period until that car was paid. And for that reason, I decided, but Rowan, I'm not going to make any debt. But soon after, I realized I had to make debt because there's something that I wanted, and it was actually a course that I wanted to complete. And if I didn't do that course, I would have been stuck in this system. But that's just a quick background of who I am. So I'm Rowan and I can give financial advice, but let's continue. So we cannot solve our problems with the same thinking we used when we created them. This is what Albert Einstein said, and I want you to remember this throughout this presentation because some of the things I will discuss, it might be new to you and it also might be unbelievable at present. But stick with me because I think when sometimes when we get rattled with something new or new information, it's the best time to learn and to experience growth. So just remember, I want to repeat: we cannot solve our problems with the same thinking we used when we created them. Now, what thinking created this problem? Now, firstly, we in South Africa have an entity called the South African Reserve Bank. But what a lot of people don't know, and if you go and do your research, and I would suggest with each calculation and everything that I tell you tonight, please do the due diligence and just go and research or just verify my calculations because I'm going to show you a couple of calculations. But the South African Reserve Bank has private shareholders. So I want us to understand the system and who benefits from the system. Now, another disclaimer, I'm not saying the system is bad, but I'm going to discuss the bad aspects of the system because the system and the government, they also have good functions. But I'm going to discuss the bad aspects and functions so that we can avoid those. And if we avoid those, it'll propel us financially. So we have an entity in South Africa called the South African Reserve Bank. But if you go and look, they have private shareholders. Now, what happens is that banks borrow money from this South African Reserve Bank. But this South African Reserve Bank does not have money in itself. They are the ones that are printing the money. So the banks borrow at a certain interest rate from the South African Reserve Bank. We as consumers borrow from banks. So ultimately, if you follow the system, the South African Reserve Bank is benefiting from people making loans from the bank because the bank also does not have the money to loan its customers. What the bank does, they need to provide proof to the South African Reserve Bank of how much income a person has and if they qualify for a loan. And on that basis, the South African Reserve Bank lends money to the banks. But now, another portion of this system is our education system because you can only get a higher loan or more debt if you have a higher income. And the only way you can get a higher income is by increasing your education. If you have a higher degree, you normally have a higher paying job. And if you have a higher paying job, then you have more access to bigger loans. So that system wants us to earn more so that we can uh, borrow more money from the banks. So ultimately, the South African Reserve Bank is benefiting. Now, the educational system, because we need higher degrees to receive a higher income to benefit the bank and to benefit the South African Reserve Bank, the educational system was also created in that way. Because if we have a higher income, we will pay more tax to the government. So ultimately, this system that they created, the educational system, they want us to have higher degrees and to have higher income to benefit them at the end of the day. What is also interesting is that the government also borrows from the South African Reserve Bank. And if you look at this picture in as a whole, you'll realize that the people who are benefiting is the South African Reserve Bank. And they are the ones that created this problem. But now they are providing us with the solutions like the banking products and educational system. And we think that if we follow their system, we'll be successful financially. But I'll show you in a couple of minutes why that is not the case. So here we have our first calculation. So why can only 6% of people retire comfortably? Ruth White, and here we have a scenario, is 30 years old and frustrated with the ever rising cost of living. She's fed up of living paycheck to paycheck and she decides she wants to retire in 10 years' time and spend the rest of her free time with family and also start a business that she always wanted. So Ruth wants an income of 50,000 Rand in 10 years' time. Just go back. So I'm going to show you the calculation. So this is the problem that they created and the solution that they provide. If we go to any bank or any institution, they'll either tell you you cannot retire unless you have saved enough or you have to work longer. And that is their solution. But I want to show you their solution in a spreadsheet. the spreadsheet? Oh, sorry. Here we go. Just by a show of hands, can you see the spreadsheet? Anybody? Maybe. Thank you. Thank you, Carlo. Thank you. So to be able, and let's just follow with me with the calculation while I show you if she can retire in 10 years time. So if you want to retire within 10 years time, firstly, it's important that you are able to do this calculation, because the calculation will show you if you can retire or not. But you need to have a goal, and this lady's goal, Ruth, has a goal of earning 50,000 Rand within 10 years' time. But we need to take into account there's 25% tax that Ruth will be paying. And let's take into account she'll live until the age of 80. So that means if she is 40, when she retires, she still has 40 years life expectancy, but she only has 10 years left till she wants to retire. I take into account an average inflation rate of 6%. If she wants to earn 50,000 Rand per month after tax, before tax, Ruth needs to earn 66,000 Rand in order to earn 50,000 Rand after tax, meaning she requires today 32 million. But she does not have a 32 million. For interest sake, within 10 years' time, she needs to earn, with inflation taken into account, 119,000 Rand, which will earn her 50,000 Rand in today's value. But if you look at their solution, you have to spend a 250,000 Rand premium per month at a 12% growth in order to retire with 50,000 Rand. So their solution will never assist you in retiring. I'm going to say that again. If you want to retire within 10 years' time and you have a normal paper asset of 12% growth, if the bank gives you 12% growth on your investment, you need to save 250,000 Rand per month for the next 10 years in order to have this 57 million, and then you can earn 50,000 Rand in today's value per month. So that you can see is not possible because Ruth is not earning 250,000 Rand. But there's another solution, and the other solution is by taking the responsibility. And by taking the responsibility, you need to learn the skills to gain a higher growth rate. So another option is if you have 8 million today, or if Ruth had 8 million today, say she won the lotto, she can have a 66,000 Rand income if her net yield or her net rent is 10%. So if she won the lotto and she has 8 million, then she can retire today and she won't have an issue with income. But Ruth only has 1,000 Rand per month. So if she wants to save 100 or 1,000 Rand per month, she'll need to have a growth of 69%. Because if she can get a growth of 69%, it'll turn into 14 million in 10 years, and that will give her an income of 66,000 Rand. I hope you are getting what I'm trying to say, but I'm going to go through it again. If Ruth only has 1,000 Rand per month, you have to grow that 1,000 Rand at a growth rate per year of 69%. Because if Ruth can achieve a growth rate of 69%, she'll have 14 million in which she can turn into an income of 66,000 Rand per month within the next 10 years. But a lot of people believe that 69% growth is not possible. But I'll show you a bit later how you can possibly get a growth rate of 69%. But there's only one reason when you'll be able to get a growth rate of 69%, and that is when you take the responsibility, because you'll need to learn some new skills in order to get a growth rate of 69%. The next problem that I've realized is when it comes to vehicles. So I did some calculations on 4 vehicles, a BMW, a Polo, an Astra, and a Toyota. And all of them let's take into account all of them have a 70,000 Rand deposit. It's 25 Rand per liter of petrol, and they travel approximately 2,000 kilometers, and they all take out a loan of 6 years with an interest rate of 15%. In the scenario of the BMW, their monthly repayment is 16,000 Rand. The total value of the BMW is 830, but there's a depreciation of 20%. And as you can see, the older the vehicle becomes, the less the depreciation rate of the vehicle is. The value of the Polo is 300,000 Rand. The value of the Opel is 140, and the Toyota is 70,000 Rand. So this one we'll purchase cash because we have a 70,000 deposit. For the others, we'll still have a monthly repayment. Now, normally what people say when it comes to new vehicles, they rather buy a new vehicle because the maintenance on older vehicles is much more, which is the truth. But I want to show you what's the real expense when you purchase a new vehicle. So when you purchase a new vehicle, the depreciation is your biggest expense. So as you can see, the first option, you are losing within the first year 166,000 Rand. That is the depreciation of what your vehicle has if you purchased it brand new. In the second option, it's 45,000, 14,000, and in the last vehicle, it's only 3,500 Rand. There's also finance cost involved. In the last option, we did not take a loan, we paid it in cash, and there'll also be insurance on your vehicle. So in the first scenario with the BMW, your total expense is 260,000 Rand, where your expense on your Toyota is 10,000 Rand. And that is the finance and the insurance costs. But I want you to take a look at the last column. So the loan balance after 1 year on the BMW is 675,000 Rand. But your car's value, because your value decreased, is 664,000 Rand. But we also need to take into account that for the year we already made payments. We made a year's worth of payments, and that equals 192,000 Rand. So the total spent on the car was 1.13 million. So what I lose after the first year on the first vehicle is 466,000 Rand. So I'm out of pocket 466,000 Rand. And then we wonder why we are not getting ahead. And the answer is we are not able to do the calculation to see how the finances is impacting our pocket at the end of the day. Because we believe what the banks say or people are telling us, but it's because the maintenance is higher for an old vehicle, and that's why I won't purchase an old vehicle. But here, as you can see clearly, that the depreciation is your biggest expense when you purchase a new vehicle. And what the banks want you to believe, but you need to refinance every couple of years. And why do you think they want you to refinance? Because they are scoring, as you can see with these calculations, the lower or the older vehicles has less depreciation and you have more money in your pocket at the end of the day. I hope everybody is with me with my current calculations. Let's go on. So is there any members of the GPF here? If there's not, I won't go in too deeply, but I'll just touch on it. Is there anybody who is a member of the government employees pension fund? So I'm getting into the two-pot system now. Nobody, it seems. If there is anybody, okay, there is people I see with on the two-pot system on the GEPF, the government employees pension fund. I see Liddy is there. If you want to know more, please, I'll give you some of my details at the end. If you want to contact me, if you want me to go in depth on these. But just to give you a quick background, so there's two types of pension funds in South Africa. There's a defined benefit fund, and this is what the teachers belong to and the policemen belong to, and also the doctors and nurses of the public healthcare. Now, their pension fund gets the value, or the members, what happens, the members contribute toward one fund, and the value or the benefits are determined by how long you've worked and what your salary was at retirement. So they do a calculation on those factors, where a defined contribution are all the private companies, and their employer makes regular contributions with the employees, and your pension fund grows on a monthly basis. So this is also a retirement annuity, pension fund, and a provident fund. So if you have a pension fund, a provident fund, or retirement annuity, you are saving towards retirement. So there's a value at the end of the day or at the end of the year. Where the GPF does not have a value, they determine their value on how long they've worked and what salary they had when they retire. So just a confirmation, yes, the GPF members, they calculate their benefit by how long they've worked, their pensionable service, and the average salary of the last 2 years. So I'm going to skip this whole portion of the GPF for now because I want to get into the two-pot system, because I only saw one hand. So let's go into the two-pot system. So this is proposed from the 1st of September 2024. All our contributions into pension funds, provident funds, and retirement annuities will be structured like this. The GPF works a bit different because the GPF does not have a value. They don't save towards retirement. They calculate their retirement because of their years of service. But our contributions from the 1st of September will be split into a savings pot, 1/3, and the other 2/3 into a retirement pot. As you can see, I made this pot intentionally open because your savings pot you'll be able to access. Your retirement pot you won't be able to access. But it's very important that you understand it's only our contributions that will be split up this way. Okay? So all of the old money, all of your money that is currently in your pension fund won't be affected, but I'll get to that in the next slide. So all contributions from the 1st of September will be split 1/3 into a savings pot, 2/3 into a retirement pot. I close this one because this will not be available at any time. Not if you resign, only when you retire will this retirement pot be available. So will my current pension be affected? So all retirement savings and interest accrued up to the 1st of September will not be affected by the proposed rules. So do not resign because you believe after the 1st of September your pension will be split into this. Your current pension won't be affected by any of the two-pot retirement system. So resigning after the 1st of September will still give you access to all of your retirement savings up and until the 1st of September plus the interest. So they will still give you access to all of your retirement savings up and until the 1st of September. It's only after the 1st of September where your pension or your contributions will be split into the 1/3 and the 2/3 portions. But now you'll tell me, Rowan, my savings pot will not have any fund when we start on the 1st of September. And what they have decided, what the government has decided, is that your current pot, there's actually 3 pots within the retirement system. It's the savings pot, it's the retirement pot, and it's the vested pot. Now, the vested pot is your current retirement savings and interest. Now, from your current retirement savings and interest, 10% will be transferred to the savings pot on the 1st of September. Okay, so but there's also a maximum allocated, and this they call the seeding capital. So they seed your savings pot with some of your current funds. That seeding capital is capped at 30,000 Rand. So let's look at an example. A member with 200,000 Rand fund value, his seed capital of 10% equals 20,000 Rand. So 20,000 Rand will be transferred into his savings pot. A member with 500,000 Rand fund value, his seed capital, also 10% of 500,000 Rand, that equals 50,000 Rand. That means he is capped at 30,000 Rand, so only 30,000 will be transferred to his savings pot. Also important to know that this seed capital is only once off, so it will only happen the 1st of September and not again. Important note for GPF members, the GPF seeding capital will be calculated by pensionable service, which means because the GPF does not have a fund value, these members' pensionable service will decrease when they use their two-pot savings portion. So it's very important for the GPF members. If you access your savings pot, you will affect your pensionable service. So I normally joke and I tell my GPF clients, if you use your savings pot, you cannot say you've been working for 20 years. You have to say, yeah. Sorry, my mic just switched off. So if you access your savings pot, you will affect your pensionable service, and this is for the GPF members only. The savings pot, just as a recap, you can access your savings pot only once a year. Only if there's a minimum of 2,000 Rand, and you will be taxed as per your marginal income tax rate. Also very important. Caution, if you have accessed all your savings pot before retirement, you will have no lump sum at retirement. So if you each and every year take your maximum allowed in your savings pot, when you retire, you'll only receive an income, but not a lump sum. Again, I just want to clarify, or I just want to make an important note that GPF members will affect their pensionable service. The vested pot, your current fund will become the vested pot. 10% capped at 30,000 will be transferred from this pot to the savings pot. All retirement savings and interest accrued up to 1 September will not be affected by this proposed rules. And the retirement pot can only be accessed at retirement. When you resign, you can only access your savings pot. Retirement pot to be used for income at retirement. So I want to stress this again. When you resign, you can only access your savings pot. But this is the pot, the retirement pot, and the savings pot is only the contributions from the 1st of September. It's not the old money, just to stress it out again. So why I needed to make debt? I had to make debt of 20,000 Rand, 25,000 actually, at this interest rate for 6 years because I wanted to purchase this program. And at the time, it costed me 25,000 Rand. But what this program taught me, it taught me that risk comes from not knowing what you are doing. Because I realized if I keep on making the same mistakes, because I didn't realize what I was doing wrong, and I needed a mentor or somebody to guide me to find the answers that I wasn't getting from the normal system. This course that I purchased, it allowed me to purchase my first property. It satisfied, and I want to show you that growth rate again because I didn't show you my growth rate. So this is my growth rate, my personal growth rate. So if I want to retire, I need to invest in something that satisfies my personal growth rate. So if my investment is not giving me a 69% growth, I won't be able to retire in 10 years' time. So this property that I purchased, it satisfied my personal growth rate. And in fact, the property didn't cost me a thing because I invested in myself first before I purchased this property. The personal growth rate is the percentage at which your investment should grow in order for you to achieve what you set out to achieve or to achieve retirement. So when I did the calculation, let me make it bigger, I realized if I can get a 60% growth over 3 years' time, I would pay that course within the 3 years because I'd have 64,000 Rand and the course was only 25,000 Rand. Now I have some interesting calculations I want to show you. So how can you use the two-pot to catapult you. So how can you save more than 600,000 Rand on a property by using this two-pot retirement system? But here's a big disclaimer on this. You must be able to do the calculation before you do this, because there's consequences for just doing what I'm telling you today, but by not being able to do the calculation. You cannot go into this blindly because you need to consider your goals and your situation. And you need to compare how this that I'm showing you now in this calculation will affect your pension. Okay, let's go to this one. Everybody can see just by a show of hands some reactions. Let me see, let me just clear this. Thank you. Okay. So because you will be taxed at your marginal income tax rate, we first need to determine if I withdraw the 30,000 Rand, say for instance, at the start of this 1st of September. So if I earn 30,000 Rand, then I pay approximately 4,000 Rand tax, almost 5,000. So my take home pay, if you earn 30,000, is 25,000 Rand 200. Right? That is what I'm earning after tax. If I take the 30,000 Rand from the savings pot, my income will increase, so my tax will increase because you will be taxed. So either one of two things will happen. You will either take home less money per month, 24,400 Rand, so your tax increased by 1%, or SARS will deduct 8,775 Rand from your 30,000 Rand, so you'll only have 21,000 Rand. So it's very important. I believe they might pay you the full amount of 30,000 Rand. So just be careful when you receive money and you are receiving an income. Be sure to save this money somewhere because SARS is going to ask for it. But okay, I withdrew my 30,000 Rand, I paid the tax, and now I have 21,225. Now, if you have a property, okay, here we go. If you have a property, this one. If I have a 1 million Rand property and my interest rate is 11.75 over a 30-year period, did you know that you pay in total 3.6 million Rand is your total cost with interest that you pay on a 1 million property over 30 years on 11.75%. Now, this is the system that they created, and we don't realize the amount that we are spending on interest because we only see, okay, but the monthly payment is nice. I can afford the monthly payment, but we do not realize the actual cost of purchasing a property this way. For interest sake, on the first 5 years, you pay 95% of your premium goes to interest. Just look at this. So when you pay a 10,000 Rand monthly, 9,000 Rand of that will go to interest. Only 300 Rand goes to your capital. But if I use that, what was the amount again? 22,000. Let me just make sure I forgot the number was. 21225. One. So if I made this extra payment, I can save 500,000 Rand on my investment or on my property if I took that 21,225 Rand. But now I want to show you something different. Close this one. Open the next one. Because you pay tax on your income tax on your withdrawal from the two-pot retirement system. If you don't earn an income for the year, or if your income is less than, so here you can see the tax thresholds, depending on your age. If you earn less than 95,000 Rand, you don't pay tax. Okay? If you earn less than 150,000 Rand or 48,000 Rand, and you are between those ages, you don't pay tax. If you earn less than 165, if you're below that age, you don't pay tax. So if you resigned or if you didn't receive your full income for the year, you can make a withdrawal of 30,000 Rand without paying any tax. But this needs to be structured, because if you are receiving an income, there will be taxed. But if you earn less income than 95,000 Rand, you won't be taxed. So in that case, yeah, if you made that extra payment of 30,000 Rand, it'll save you more than 668,000 Rand savings, and you'll save or you'll pay off your bond 5 years quicker just because you paid that into your bond. That is if you have a property. Before I go further, are you still learning? Are you still learning? You're still enjoying just by thumbs up or reaction? Was that valuable? Thank you, Jovan, Jermaine, Dwayne, Carlo. Thank you. So now I'm going to show you how you can save more than 200,000 Rand on a property by not earning a cent more. So you don't have to withdraw from the two pot. How can you save 200,000 Rand on a property by earning a cent more? And the disclaimer, I'm going to keep the disclaimer. You need to do the calculation before you apply this. Make it bigger. So when you purchase a property, your property gets registered on your name. Now, when your property gets registered, a lot of people don't know that you need to make your first payment when your property is registered. Don't pay your premium. Say, for instance, your property gets registered the 1st of August. Don't pay your first installment the 30th of August. Because if you do, let's take this scenario. If you only pay your premiums diligently each and every month, 10,000 Rand for the next 30 years, you'll pay 3.6 million in total. But if you made your first payment when your property is registered, then 4, you'll save almost 300,000 Rand just by making your first payment on the day of registration of your property. Now, this information that I'm sharing with you, who of you can tell me that you have been taught this in school or varsity? This is such a simple application of a financial structure. If you just did this, you'll save yourself 300,000 Rand on a 1 million Rand property, so you'll pay it off quicker as well. But nobody, not the educational system, did not teach you this because they have other things in mind. The banking system won't teach you this because they are going to lose out on 280,000 Rand. And I just want you to think about it. Why are you, if you haven't learned or heard of this before, why are you only hearing about this now? Because something as simple as just paying your first payment the day your property is registered will save you 282,000 Rand. And what I'm trying to get across to my client and to everybody, as much people as possible, is that you need to be able to do the calculation. Because if you do the calculation, nobody can take you for a ride. So whatever I say tonight, whatever anybody else tells you when it comes to finances, please make sure that you invest in yourself. If you don't know how, but do the calculation, because the calculation won't lie. at the end of the day. So learn to do the calculation and not accept what anybody says. Maybe you have heard a lot of vehicle companies say buy now, but you only pay in 3 months' time. It's the same principle, the same thing applies. If you do the calculation, you'll start to realize there's things that you can implement that can save you a ton of money in the long term. Now, I've realized why debt is keeping us poor, because we don't realize that. And let's just remove that instant. If you look at this scenario, you are paying 3.6 million for 1 million rand property. That's not an 11% growth. That is more like a 300% or 200% growth. You're paying 1 million, but or the value is 1 million, but you pay 3.6 million. But because we only look at the values that the contract states, it's only 10,000 Rand, we don't mind paying a 10,000 Rand because we think we can afford it, but we don't realize the impact that it has on our financial future. I hope you're learning some things here today. Almost done. Still enjoying it. Property as an investment. So let me show you why property can be a good investment, but you need to be able to do the calculation. So with property has 27 variables that can either make it a good investment or a bad investment. So do not purchase a property if you do not understand all 27 variables, especially if you want to purchase an investment property. So let's take this into account. Purchase price of the property is 477 Rand and the rent is 4,000 Rand per month. I want to show you how I am able to calculate that. This one. Edit this property. Oh, yeah, what this was, one of my clients asked me actually to do this calculation on a property he wanted to purchase. Let me just see if it's over here. Yeah, there it is, the 477. So as you can see, you need to be able to calculate to ensure that you are doing what you need to or not. So the property purchase price is 477,000 Rand. That's the market value. There's transfer cost, that's 35,000 Rand. The interest rate, it's not 25, but I'll get to that. It's 11.75. 11.75. The inflation rate, the monthly expenses, everything I've added, the rental is 4,000 Rand. And let's just compare and see what this investment property looks like. So this property will give a growth of 7.49%. So a client came to me and he asked, can I invest in this property? And it is a property of 477,000 Rand and the rent will be 4,000 Rand. He will have an outflow out of his pocket, so he'll need to pay 1,900 Rand per month out of his pocket on this rental property, and he'll only get a 8%, 7.5% growth. So if he wants to retire within 10 years' time, he doesn't adhere to the 69% that I showed you earlier. So this is not a good property for him, and you can get 8% at a bank. So this is not a good investment. But what people fail to realize and to calculate, not something very important, is that the interest rate in South Africa has been as high as 25%. And that is something that can happen again. So you need to take what I call the worst case scenario into account. We need to be able to calculate what is the worst thing that can happen to my property and to my bond. And worst case, 25% interest, your monthly expense is going to increase to 6,800 Rand. And this is an infinitely bad property. So if you cannot manage a 6,800 Rand monthly increase in your bond, then the property is you're going to lose that property. Let me just increase to show you, because let's just increase this to a million Rand property, because this is something that could happen. You can go and research the highest interest rate South Africa has had. What is this? On a million Rand property, you need, on worst case, to be able to afford a 17,000 Rand. Because if you cannot, the bank is going to repossess your property. And I'm trying to teach people we need to be able to do the calculation if we want to be sure that we are doing the right thing or not. And if you cannot do the calculation, it's better to stay away from the investment. Where's my, okay, it's here. Lastly, so just last couple of slides, just what the school, this is a private school, and I think it was, I'm not sure what the school, I think it was Bishop's thing that I Googled. They charge 199,000 Rand per annum for this private school. But this is the same private school that teaches the same curriculum as a lot of the other schools. And they wouldn't teach what I taught you today. So we cannot solve our problems with this thinking that we used to create them. You won't be able to solve your financial problem by focusing on the solutions that they provide, the schooling systems, the banking system. They won't be able to solve your problems. And what I've, because this was my birthday month, I decided on a special offer because I realized the reason why people are not able to retire is because they don't have a surplus in order to spend on retirement. They cannot spend money in order to, and I want to show you that calculation. Which one is it? This one. This one. Yeah, it's this one. I want to show you, if you have 1,000 Rand per month and you spend it towards retirement within the next 10 years, you need, say, 70% growth. Then you'll be able to retire. But because all of our money is going for debt, because 95%, especially in the first years, all of it is interest. Because we have so much debt, we cannot spend more money in order to retire quicker. So if I could increase this to 5,000 Rand, I just need a 50% growth. If I could increase this to 10,000 Rand, I only need a 39% growth. But the reason we aren't able to spend this towards retirement is because we are spending this on debt, and that is keeping us poor. And it's keeping us behind. So what I decided, I'm currently teaching all of my clients, I'm teaching them step by step how to pay off all their debt, house, car, loans, etc., in less than 3 to 7 years by applying these principles that I'm showing you tonight. So I provide them with spreadsheets like this so they'll be able to calculate how to pay off their debt in the quickest possible way. I give them this personal growth rate calculator, because you need to be able to calculate how much growth do I need to receive on my investment so that I can retire in 10 years' time. There's 20 money leaks that I've found within our budget, just like the paying immediately. And maybe I can show you one quickly, because I also do the following. I want to show you where some of our money is leaking. So I am also able to give loans at a lower interest rate. Now I want to show you, if you, let's take that premium is 10,094. If you can negotiate a better interest rate at your bank, if I can give you a 10%, that's not 10%, that's 10%. If I can negotiate a 10% increase or decrease in interest rate, your monthly payment reduces. It's this. minus this. This doesn't make sense. Equals this minus this. There we go. So if you get a decrease in interest rate, then you'll save a 1,319 Rand. If you use that and you pay that on your bond, the only thing you did is you asked me to get you a better interest rate on your home. Just by paying less interest rate and by paying that extra into your bond, you'll save 12 years and you'll save 1 million on your property. So this is another place where money is leaking, where we're not realizing we can save that money and pay towards our debt. So that spreadsheet I'll give to you, where I'll show you there's 20 ways where your money is leaking, where you can fix those leaks in your bucket. I also provide a virtual consultation. If you are far from me, if you're close by, then I'll drive to you, and I can also provide you with that solution of the GPF. I'll also send you this Power Goal ebook and also an invitation to our weekly. We have a weekly webinar where I teach them all these principles. Now, normally this would cost 13,700 Rand. But the normal price that I charge is 3,500 Rand. But because you sit here today and you listened on a Friday evening, and I'm so grateful that you took time to listen to me tonight, because most people do not want to invest in themselves. I decided that I'll provide you with all these courses and all these info and the consultation for 997 Rand. If you are interested in learning more to pay off all your debt and to get out of this rat race. Just a calculation I did. If you invest 997 Rand, 1,000 Rand, and I save you this amount on interest, you have a 187% of growth on your investment. Because if you implement what I teach you, I can guarantee if you have a million Rand property, I can save you approximately 1.7 million in interest, and that equals that amount of growth. But because you are here today, I'll provide you with links where I've learned a lot of the stuff. Today, I'll give you a consultation. I'll send an email where you can book a consultation with me, and I'll provide you with the books that taught me these principles for free. For all of you that are here, that's at level 1. If you only want that cheat sheet where I can show you where there's a leaking bucket and how you can calculate your growth rate, I'll send you that spreadsheet plus the consultation and the 2 books. The normal price is 1,600, and I'm going to ask you today 495. And the last one is where I provide you with a course to pay off your debt. I'll invite you to our weekly webinar. I'll give you all the spreadsheets, all the cheat sheets, all the ebooks, and I'll give you an hour of my time. And for today only is 997 Rand. Or for those of you that are here, I'll send an email afterwards just to confirm. Sorry for the long. How long was it? I hope you found it valuable. Is there anybody? Let me see if I can open the chat. Okay, the chat is open. Is there any questions? Can you? I'm on Cape Point, Dwayne said. So any questions that anybody has that they want me to answer? I'm going to stay here till all questions are answered. Any questions? Was it valuable? I hope you learned something tonight. And thank you again for joining and deciding to sit with me tonight. Thank you, Jovan. Thank you, Jupiter. I'll invite you for future sessions like these. I am going to discuss there's a lot of places I'm seeing where there's not enough information, especially wills, what happens when we die. Uh, so I'm also going to discuss things like wills, estates in the future, but just look out for my email when I invite you for those type of sessions. Can we get a copy of the webinar? Because you were here tonight, Jermaine, and let me ask by show of hands if you would like me to make this webinar available again. Yeah, I am recording it. I am recording it. By show of hands, would you like me to make it available? Okay, I'll make the recording available. Okay, great. I'll make it available. I also have a YouTube and a TikTok where I discuss these type of things. So I'll send you the link to my, yes, I'll make the video available. Some things that I'll also discuss that I've realized, is it better to rent or to buy? Maybe I can show it to you if you still have a couple of minutes, because it's not 8 o'clock yet. Let me just show you that calculation and why it's so important to do the calculation. Okay, let me show you the last calculation before we go. But you can still ask questions. You are free to ask any question. So is it better to buy a property? By show of hands, is it better to buy a property? Who says it's better to buy? Reactors. Better to buy a property. Thank you. Thank you for the hands. Those of us still in the fund, will your current contributions grow with the vested portions? So Dwayne, that's a good question. The growth of your pension fund after the 1st September will be exactly the same. The two-pot is not a new system or a new fund. It's just, how can I call it? It's like the outside of your pension fund is going to change. So your savings pot, your vested pot, the funds won't be shifted into two different pots. They'll just do the calculation. Your money will still grow. It'll still be in one savings pot, if I can call it that. So it will still grow. Your contributions will still grow in the vested, in the savings, and in the retirement. It's not really going to change the fund. It's just on the outside, you'll be able to withdraw your contributions, 1/3 thereof. I hope that answers your question. Thank you. So is it better to buy a property or rent? And the answer I can tell you now is you need to do the calculation. That is the answer. The answer is not yes, it's better to buy or yes, it's better to rent, because I want you to follow with the scenario. If you purchase a 1 million rand property with an interest rate of 12% on a bond of 30 years, your monthly payment is 10,000 rand per month. And let's assume your growth is 10% per annum of your property. That means after 7 years, if you sell, you can sell it for 1.9 million rand. What a lot of people say is, but I've made a profit of 950,000 rand. But what they forget to calculate is that you have already made payments for 7 years. So if you calculate that payments, you've made 1.2 million rand in payments for your first 7 years. So if you sell for 1.9, you're actually in a loss of 285,000 rand. That's actually what you are out of pocket. If you purchase a property, you pay a bond, and after 7 years, you sell the property. And I didn't even take into account if you used an estate agent commission. There will be a commission also involved. So if you didn't do the calculation, you would think, and a lot of people say, but I've purchased my property for 1 million and I'm selling it and I made a profit of 900. And there's also something like tax in certain circumstances involved. But if you rent a property, that same property you can normally rent for 7,000 rand. So you're saving a 3,000 rand extra. This is your surplus. This is money that's not leaking anymore. And if you can get a 50% growth on a 3,000 rand, you'll have 2 million in 7 years' time. But there's a condition: you need to know how to get a 50%. A 50% growth is not just achievable in the normal way. You need to invest in yourself in order to be able to get a growth of 50%. And that's what I'm teaching in my sessions. How do you get a 50% growth? How do you get out of debt? That was the last calculation. I hope that was interesting. The answer is, and I want to emphasize, you need to do the calculation before you start believing. Because the reason people tell you a property is a good investment, and this is what I believe, the banks are benefiting. So they will tell you, but a property is a good investment. The agents will benefit, and that is why they tell you that property is a good investment. It's not necessarily a good investment. It can be if you do the calculation. But if you don't do the calculation, you can be in this situation and then you wonder, why am I not getting ahead? But you actually lost money because you didn't do the calculation. So thank you again for your time. I do appreciate that you were here. I'll send you an email as a thank you, and I'll provide you with a recording. And if you are interested, I'll also send you all those details on the email. Thank you very much, and look out for my future webinars. It will be on different subjects. Have a wonderful, wonderful weekend. If there's no questions, thank you, Liddy. Thank you, Tremaine. All the rest, I appreciate. Thank you so much.